It's day 10 of 14 days thinking about Katherine of Aragon, and today we're thinking about what life was like for her as a queen in the 1520s, so before really everything kicks off with her husband's great matter. In particular, we're going to focus on two key things. Firstly, the event, which was the Field of Cloth of Gold, and also her involvement in the negotiations with her nephew, Charles, the Holy Roman Emperor. So starting off with the Field of Cloth of Gold, this was a ceremonial meeting of Catherine's husband, the king, with the King of France, Francois. They headed over to France in the May of 1520. Catherine personally had a retinue of 1,000 people and 800 horses, so sorry to those 200 that were clearly walking. They stopped over before they got to Dover in Canterbury to meet with Charles, but we'll cover that in just a second. Now on the 31st of May, they left Dover and arrived in Calais in France a few hours later. Now straight off the bat, we've got an issue which Catherine ends up taking the blame for. Catherine's husband, the King of England, and Francois, the King of France, had both made a promise to each other they weren't going to shave until they met each other. Henry has clearly forgotten and whipped off his beard, but Thomas Boleyn, who is charged with making an excuse for this, blames Catherine, saying the Queen prefers him to be clean shaven, and that excuse is taken at face value. No pun intended. Now, Catherine is a real force of diplomatic influence here. She's considered the best dressed person there, having the best jewels. She's still got her long, beautiful hair. However, she is quite overshadowed by the Queen of France, Queen Claude. Now, Queen Claude is on her 5th pregnancy. She's heavily pregnant and she's already given her husband 2 male heirs. However, this does have some benefit for Catherine, who no longer enjoys dancing anymore. And obviously the Queen of France isn't going to be doing much dancing either. So at least she's got an excuse there. Also worth mentioning that it's highly probable Anne Boleyn was there also as part of Claude's retinue. Now both Catherine and Claude are very much tasked with being involved in providing entertainment as such. Catherine is tasked with entertaining the King of France, so she gives him a lavish banquet in the English camp, and Claude looks after Henry in the French camp. They also have with them Mary Tudor, as in Henry's sister, and Francois's mother. Altogether they are involved in sorting out the banquets and the tournaments and the sort of exciting evening entertainment. And in the famous painting of the Field of Cloth of Gold, if you look very carefully right at the top, you can see the 4 there, the 2 queens and the 2 kings looking out over the tilt yard of the jousts. It seems that Catherine very much fulfilled her duty here and played a really incredible role in providing support for her husband and also entertainment for the people that were there. And Erasmus, the humanist Erasmus, had later written, and I quote, "Where could one find a wife more keen to equal her admirable spouse?" So it seems like she definitely gave Henry a run for his money in terms of being an entertainer at this event. So the next thing to talk about in this decade is Catherine's relationship and negotiations with her incredibly powerful nephew Charles, who was the Holy Roman Emperor, and he's her real link back to her family at this point and her Spanish roots. So on the way to the Field of Cloth of Gold, she really encourages this meeting. Henry's not so sure about it because he wants to at this point be on a good side with France rather than Spain. So he's not so sure, but she really pleads her kind of family link and how important it is to her to meet with Charles. So they have this meeting, and this later leads to an alliance, and it leads to the following year in 1521 the betrothal of Charles to the Princess Mary, so Catherine's daughter. This leads to Charles visiting England. Again, he visits in 1522, and this again is described as a real triumph of sort of a public event for Catherine. It's a really big event. She meets them at Greenwich Palace. Charles comes with 2,000 people, 1,000 horses, and what makes me laugh a little bit is he comes with so many horses. Obviously he's engaged to the Princess Mary. She's 6 years old at this point, and she gifts him horses and some hawks. I mean, it sounds like he's got enough, but he seems to have been delighted. Maybe he collects horses, I don't know. So this is a really nice event for Catherine. It's been described as being her last enjoyable public event. Things start to go downhill a little bit for Catherine then. By 1525, she's now 40 years old, and actually her health isn't so brilliant. Her health is worsening. And at this point, Charles has ended his betrothal to the Princess Mary. He wants to marry someone that he can have children with sooner, and he's not interested in the alliance anymore. And at this point, actually, he's decided he's not going to have any sort of political negotiations with Catherine. He'll talk about family, but that's it. He's cut her off in terms of politics. Instead, in 1526, he marries Isabella of Portugal, who is Catherine's niece, so the daughter of her sister Maria. So he marries her instead, and then by 1528, England are at war with Charles and with Spain. So that's where we'll leave Catherine for today. So tomorrow we will have a look at the events leading up to, and possibly including, we'll see how we do for time, the Great Matter and the divorce. So I will see you then. Bye.